Hi, today is Mother's Day. Well, it's almost coming to the end, but a friend's message reminded me that I had thought to do this for my mother, for other people who may have older patients at home that they need to take care of, and for patients themselves as they may want to decide what to do about themselves. Hi, my name is Anusha Ramanathan, and for those who know that I recently lost my mother, but she had been battling illnesses for a very long time. And we have undergone a lot of challenges and had to take a lot of decisions as a family to ensure that my mom could die the way she wanted to. And a lot of it is credit to her and to my brother, who was the larger reason why she was able to um, execute her wishes, or why we were all able to execute her wishes to a large extent. But death is something we don't like to talk about. In the Indian society, as I have seen, largely we are very uncomfortable with it. And even when we were talking to funeral services, to people to try and understand about, what is electric cremation going to be like, how does the other, processes are for cremating a body, people would just say, wait till it happens. You don't have to worry about it right now. You give us a call, something will take place, we will help. But it does not help if you don't have enough information. You want to take informed information decisions, and you need information for that. And if people are unwilling to talk about death, um, then it becomes difficult. So, what is this talk about? It's a ramble. It's a ramble on how I felt, primarily me, because my brother has similar takes on many of the aspects and different takes on some of the aspects. So, I would say it is my recounting. Um, and it may have errors, it may have gaps, and I will try and rectify them as I go on and try and figure out how to understand this better, how to explain this better. It's a process of also trying to discover for myself the journey that we have taken so far. I call this journey checkout of Earth, and it's basically my mother's checkout of Earth. And it has been, as I said, a long process. She was diagnosed with heart illness in 1996, 97, and then she managed like a brave trooper, and then she was again very seriously ill, with a very limited timeline given in 2013, and then she again managed to bounce back, not completely bounce back, but still managed to survive and limitedly thrive um, for a long time. So we've been blessed. And the fact that we've had to deal with her death that could be imminent has also got us to think a lot about how we would like our lives to be, how we would like the exit to be. Not just for her, but for also ourselves. Um, so, do you want to have life support? Do you want to prolong your life on ventilator? How long would you want to prolong your life on ventilator? What do you think should be done if you're not able to intake food? Do you want an IV, an intravenous, injection to be for food supplements to be injected into your body? You have a choice to refuse that. If you think you are not going to survive, you could refuse. having IV injected. Um, you could refuse ventilator. These are life support aspects. You could refuse to be resuscitated if your heart stops pumping. If you think that it's going to give you very limited uh, quantity of time and quality of time, you could choose to avoid being resuscitated that way. Uh, these are not choices that are often discussed in hospitals. In fact, doctors were very reluctant to even accept that we were exploring these options. Um, Life should go on, and we should struggle and strive to ensure that life is sustained as long as possible. True, but quality of life matters, and you may choose to, you know, not want to continue your suffering if your body naturally gives up. You may not want artificial support to prolong your life. That's what my mother decided to do. Last year, we decided to have an advance directive, a living will, which stated very explicitly her decisions of not wanting resuscitation. If her heart stopped pumping, then she didn't want artificially for that to be for her to be resuscitated. She did not want ventilator support. She did not want to be force fed through the IV if she was not able to intake food. And it was very clear that it was going to be the end of life in that sense. She did not want hospitalization. She wanted to stay at home, which automatically precludes a lot of these aspects. Resuscitation is generally done in the ambulance and in the hospital. It's not something that you wouldn't have those pumps to give electric charges to the body to get the heart pumping again. Not at home, generally. So she was okay with comfort care, which meant that you could have the concentrator and she could get oxygen if she was not able to breathe. But if her lungs were collapsing, which is when the ventilator support would be required, then she didn't want that. So those were very clear-cut decisions that she had taken. She also had described what her quality of life was. For her, one aspect of her quality of life was that she would remember people that were close to her, but also that she would be able to read on her cell phone using the magnifier feature of the cell phone, or she would be able to hear music or even just voices. And she knew that she was going to lose her hearing, she was going to lose her sight. She also, towards the end, lost a lot of her taste buds, her ability to speak properly. She would slur quite a bit. She did have an onset of dementia towards the end, but she was aware that all of this could happen to her, and she thought that this was really not the quality of life that she wanted. If she was not able to take decisions for herself, she then named executors of her will, who should then see to it that what she had desired would be executed. She was also aware that in her dementia, she could change her opinions, her mind, and she was conscious that her conscious state of mind, her sane state of mind, was that she didn't want all of these resuscitations, etc., to be done, and that her executors of the will would be her children. Why am I talking about all of this? I think we don't talk about death. I think when we talk about death, we evaluate life more. We value life more. We understand what is important about living. We understand what we cherish the most about living. At least I have in those talks with my mother. I know my brother and I have had conversations on what it would be for us to grow older or sicker and need to take these kinds of decisions, whether we ever wanted uh, to be in the state that my mom was towards the end, and how we would not want that kind of dependence on other people to take care of us. Not that we resented giving care, but it is the it is the it is the lack of independence, the lack of self dependence, the ability to do for oneself. And it is really a reluctance to be so dependent on others for almost everything. Asking for the time of the day, asking them whether they know you or you should know them. Uh, that is a kind of mental agony that kind of afflicts a lot of these patients towards the end of life. As one of the doctors said, you would either die before dementia, or dementia would definitely come to you before you die. It's and that is one aspect of it. It's also emotionally frustrating sometimes to realize that you have forgotten your loved ones. You seem to know them, but you can't recognize them. You should know them. You are instinctively, intuitively expecting that you should know them, you yourself, but you're not able to place them. And when you realize it, it hurts you. And that hurt adds to the stress and trauma. So, also, how to take care of these patients, what to do with them when this kind of situation emerges, is not one-stop solution. It would depend from patient to patient, from personality to personality. My mom's personality was such that she would feel sorry, repentant, guilty. It was best if she was not made aware that she had forgotten my name or her son's name, and we would just indulge her in talking to us as if we were someone else. She had sometimes mistaken me with a doctor or with someone she had known casually, and it was fine. But when she was made aware by other people that I was her daughter, and she would realize it half an hour later, it was traumatizing for her, and you needed to counsel a lot more. And there is no real advisory that I could find online to orient people about this. And also, there is not one stop, communication that comes in. As I said, it really is personality dependent of the patient and also of the people who are taking care. Uh, whom can you go to? How can you approach? How can you sensitize the people who are caretakers? You may not be physically able to take care of them. Also, they become violent. They have personality changes. Um, they could suddenly find the energy to almost twist your hand, and to the extent that sometimes my brother would fear that his hand would be broken, um, or we would fear that the caretaker's hands would be broken, and we had told them that at any cost you should protect yourself first. Uh, but it was not the personality of my mother's. Um, and so you have to be ready to accept those elements. Palliative care is about enabling you to understand, accept, be prepared to some extent about these kinds of changes and how you may want to deal with them. It deals with people, doctors, attendants, counselors, talking to both the patient and the patient's relatives and trying to get them to understand. But palliative care is still very nascent in India. There is not much awareness about it. There is not much, there are not too many agencies. We were blessed to be in an urban center in Mumbai, to be placed and could contact people who were kind and nice. But definitely at times we felt that we knew a lot more than the advice being given to us. We were already steps ahead of the advice being given to us. Not so for my father, but definitely for my brother, me, to a large extent, my mother as well. Um, you need to know what you want to do with your body. Do you want to have last rites performed? Do you want people to come? And what do you want to do with your assets? That's a financial will. But what you want to do with yourself, your digital life, your digital presence, your body, how do you want it to be cremated? Do you want electric cremation? Do you want traditional cremation? Do you, if there are circumstances in which others can't come, what would you like to have been done with you if they are strangers who have to take care of you? Do you want to donate your organs? You can't donate anything other than your eyes and skin if you are at home. You can only donate your eyes and skin. But because all the others are surgeries, so they need the hospital environment for you to be cut open and your heart to be taken and your kidneys to be taken. Not that my mom's organs were all that great and she could, donate them. But if you wanted it, what would you do? Could you want to donate your entire body as a cadaver to a teaching hospital? You need a lot more support, and you need your family's approval for some of these decisions, because you may choose to do something, but your family may not agree. They may not be prepared. They may not be ready. There are many customs and traditions which say that your body must be whole for it to go and attain moksha. So, have you prepared your family members adequately for it? Are you having these conversations with them regularly to get them to be oriented? One of the reasons why we had the advance directive is not really as much for my mother or me or my brother or for doctors. Because honestly speaking, the next of kin could take decisions for the family member. But it was for my father. Once we started this as a formal legal process of notarization, of getting the GP to sign the advance directive, of getting witnesses to witness the signing and seeing that the patient was in her senses and was not being manipulated into signing. Once we had that kind of a ritual of a process, my father had to take note that this was the beginning of the end of the journey for my mom. He had to also accept that he was very traditional and she was not, and that she had certain wishes of electric cremation, which, by the way, I have huge issues with because the Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation calls electric crematoriums, even if they are just PNG crematoriums. And there are very few electric crematoriums in Mumbai, which is problematic. It's much more environmentally friendly to be in electricity than PNG, though PNG is far more environmental friendly than traditional pyres are. My mom was very environmentally conscious, would segregate garbage, would save water, would get a plumber to come in and, ensure that the taps were not leaking, that kind of person. She taught us to be more environmentally conscious, would recompose, would have vermiculture locally in our balcony. In Bombay, the balcony is basically the grill, and so she would do composting in that. Um, we of course did a lot of composting when we were in Faridabad with our own house and yard, etc. But she was very focused on being environmentally conscious, and we couldn't get her the electric cremation because there are certain rites and rituals that my father did want to have, which meant that you go to the funeral place and you come back home, right? And people who have accompanied you also come back home. Um, that would not be possible if the crematorium is too far away. But it was PNG, it is still environmentally friendly. So all of these kinds of talks of knowing where to go, of finding adequate information of what to do. Uh, you want to go to the crematorium. What are the forms that you need to have? What do you need to fill up? Who can fill this up? What what are the processes to get your death certificate? Not your death certificate, but your family member's death certificate. Who are the people authorized to do that? It's generally the next of kin, the husband, the children, immediate children. The father's side of the family then gets precedence, the mother's side of the family gets secondary precedence. You need authority letters and so on. Formats for these letters, nothing of this is easily available. You need to really do a lot of hunting, finding, have gone through the process prior, best. Call up people who have gone through the process prior, which means you need to have done a lot of homework prior. Yeah, and it can't be at that last minute. Also, some of these decisions are very tough. The moment the person dies, you are out there calling your GP, especially at home. You're out there calling your GP, trying to get the death certificate without which donation cannot occur. Calling the people with an ice box to store the body, but they have to wait for the donation of organs to take place, the skin, the eyes. That can be a process. If it is happening at night, no one warns you that it could be quite some calls required to ensure that that orchestration happens. My brother had to make, we had done all of these calls prior. We had registered ourselves as organ donors. We are registered organ donors. We had also done the calls to find out whether my mom could donate her eyes, etc., to check whether her eyes could be donated because she had glaucoma, she had other ailments, and they had tested it and said yes, she could. So we had done all of these processes prior, last year in fact. And even then, as we continuously kept track, at night we couldn't get in touch with some of those numbers. And so there were some 18, 20 calls that my brother had to make in order to ensure that the organ donations could take place and that they fit within the time frame. Meanwhile, I had called the icebox people and said that maybe it would take 2-3 hours, and so by the time they are landing up, this should have been done. And those icebox people had to wait for the skin and organ donation to the eye donation to be completed before they could place the body inside the box. So many things you have to be tackling, their frustrations. It's midnight, it's past midnight. Your family members are sleeping, have not been able to sleep, maybe not able to eat. Tempers are running high. If you have already taken some of these decisions and you already had these processes as a checklist for you to follow, it would just be that much easier. It was easier for us. We were very clear as to who was going to do what. My brother was going to take care of the death certificate, the organ donation, etc. I was going to take care of the rituals and rites, the ice box, and the coordination from that angle, trying to reach out to relatives, informing them. That was my job. handling my father was whosoever's job. But my father was also very composed, and that had helped, I think, these talks, and then also seeing my mother very badly deteriorate over the last 1 month before she died, and especially the last 15 days, I think, had helped him reconcile to the fact that she was going to check out of Earth. So my attempt in some of these talks is going to be about talking how does one go about creating an advance directive? What would you want to think about in an advance directive? How could you possibly prepare yourself through organizations and contacts about what are the processes when someone dies? People help. I think there are organizations, I know we were in touch with organizations that were working with palliative care, but even then, as I said, it's very nascent. For instance, we were the ones initiating the discussions on organ donation. They hadn't. We were very aware of organ donation, but there may be others who aren't, and it's a conversation worth having with people, asking them if you would like to donate your eyes, your skin. It's not even something that looks odd when you are on your way out. What would you like to do with your clothes? My mom had already cleaned out most of her wardrobe, even when she was alive. So we have actually very little to dispose of in that sense of her assets, though there are, of course, assets of hers. And there were assets that she didn't want to dispose of in her living time that we are in the process of seeing how they can be recycled, upcycled, given to someone else, or kept as mementos. And all of this has also been conversations we've had with her. Utensils, jewelry, and her books, her writing, her cutouts of Tamil magazines from when she was a student to lots of other fun things. So these are aspects that you would want to think about, especially if you are staying away. For my brother and me, we were staying with my mom. But if you're staying away, you come back to a house and you're sometimes surprised by what that house contains. We lived every day with my parents, and even then, seeing the number of tawas in the house when we were cleaning up stunned me. And I was like, why do we have so many tawas? I remember we bought this, we had discussions on this, we got this, but we never disposed of the earlier tawa. And why do we have so many tawas? And what are we doing with this? Are we ever going to make so many dosas or chapatis that we need so many tawas? And I'm wondering if that's something that other people would have. I mean, I'm staying in the house and I still felt surprised and having to take decisions then on, is there a story behind this? Is there something that she wanted? Is this something that I'm going to regret disposing of? And I have the luxury of time, again, because I stay at home. But if you were away, then you wouldn't have the luxury of that decision taking. So it may be good to think through and have these conversations and decisions prior. This doesn't mean that you're hastening death. It just means that you're valuing life. At least that's how we three definitely looked at it. That we valued the memories, we decided which memories we wanted to hold on to, and we decided how we want those memories to be enshrined, whether they would be mementos in physical objects or whether they would be just memories that we have. For my mom, it was very important, for instance, that there be no photo frame of hers hung in the house. She was like, there are digital pictures available, and you can do away with this photo frame business and cleaning and standing in front of it. And if people come and then they ask you, who is this? And you tell them about, oh, my mother, and she died, and I don't want all this nonsense. Um, and also the cleaning. She was really against the fact that it would be a dust catcher and something that both having dusted enough and having suffered dust allergy from, and knowing her children suffered dust allergy as well, she was very against. But, you know, a 13-day ritual, apparently the Vadiyar said, the priest said that, you know, you must have a photo frame. So we compromised. We had a tablet of the Samsung S7 tablet, which had a black frame and 12-inch at that, and we enlarged a picture of hers, and we kept that on display, plugged into the extension cord with the screensaver off. So that had the mala around it, and most people did not even recognize it was a digital photo frame. It was a digital photograph till, you know, after 4 or 5 hours of the function that day, the screensaver did finally come back on, and then they realized, oh, that's an idea. So we compromised. We had the photo for display, but we definitely did not have a physical picture blow up of hers in any photo frame. So we lived up to her will as well. These are kinds of other elements that you may want to decide. You know, she was very aware that COVID situation meant that people could not come. And so she wrote in her will that they should not come because they have, many of her siblings especially have comorbidities, and she did not want them to feel guilty of not being able to come. She did not want them to force themselves to come for ritual's sake. And so she said, no, they should not. And those are elements that I really respect my mother for. She was ahead of her times. I won't say I have anything to do with it, but I think as people, as individuals moving in a very fast-paced society, we may want to recollect and think about how we want to exit this place that we call Earth. And this is the first of what I hope to share. I don't really know what more I would share, but these are for some of the first initial thoughts. Unfiltered, unscripted. So I apologize if I have been rambling. As I already said at the beginning, I would. But do let me know what you think, what you would like to know more about. And I'm sure there are some of you who are like, this can't be, and you must not think about death. And when you start focusing on death, you stop focusing on life. That's not how we looked at it. We very much lived our lives knowing that we had a limited time to enjoy the togetherness. And therefore, sometimes some of the memories were more precious. And therefore, the bravery, the courage was more admirable. And that's my opinion. I'm sure others have a million other opinions, and you're all welcome to them. I would not want to debate on this right now, but this is it for now from me. So bye, see you soon. And for all of you out there, happy Mother's Day. All kinds of mothers, all types of mothers, all mothers who are at heart caretakers, all caretakers in that sense. Happy Mother's Day.